that very kind introduction. Flattery will get you everywhere. Just kidding. I want to begin by thanking all of you for being here today and for Bristol Community College for allowing me to have the ceremony at the college. Also, see former President Sprague there, who I'm friendly with, so thank you for attending. Thank you, President Douglas. Special thanks to Governor Polito for taking time to come down here and administer the oath of office to me today. I also would like to thank her and the governor for their attention that they have given to Fall River and Bristol County during the last 4 years. Very nice remarks by Brother John to Lieutenant Governor Polito. I'll be sure to tell the governor when he's reviewing the law school budget that he was just kidding, that he had nothing to do with the appointment. I'm sure he'll understand. Prior to being appointed district attorney 4 years ago, I received a lot of support from many people in the community, the staff at the district attorney's office. I continue to be grateful for that support and for the continued support of many people during the last 4 years. I again would like to express my thanks to Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for appointing me to this important position 4 years ago. I appreciate their support during the past few years on budget initiatives and other legislation, especially bail reform. In particular, I would like to thank the governor, lieutenant governor, the legislative leadership, and legislators for significantly increasing the salaries of assistant district attorneys during the last 3 years. For many years, the salaries of assistant district attorneys were significantly below their state counterparts. This fund has allowed DAs, assistant DAs, to try to make a living wage. So I want to thank you for that. It's very important. It will allow for retention of prosecutors, which provides stability to the DA's office and a better quality of life for them. I'd like to express my gratitude to all of my family for their support throughout my career. I would like to thank my children, in particular my wife, was always been very supportive of me, especially during the past 4 years. She's been very tolerant and understanding of my schedule and the many demands of the job. When I spoke at my first inauguration 4 years ago, I outlined what I hope to accomplish as a district attorney. I can stand here today and discuss what I believe to be a number of significant accomplishments during the past 4 years. With the hard work and efforts of the staff at the district attorney's office, we've moved forward on a number of initiatives. I want to thank my leadership team for helping me manage the office and carry out the initiatives that have been implemented during that time. I also want to thank the staff of the office for their dedication to the mission of doing justice and keeping the public safe. I've tried to be responsive to the needs and requests of the people connected to the criminal justice system in Bristol County. I've made it a priority to try to promptly respond in a reasonable way to many issues brought to my attention, and I will continue to do that. I'm very proud that we have created an elder fraud and abuse unit that has made a significant impact in prosecuting crimes against the elderly. I want to thank Assistant District Attorney Michael Scott for his efforts in overseeing this unit. I have visited every Council on Aging and Senior Center in Bristol County at least once during the last 4 years. It's important to spread the message of education and prevention, which is certainly more preferable to prevent elder fraud from occurring than prosecuting people who have done irreparable harm to the elderly. Our senior citizens are a precious commodity who have given much to this country. They must be protected. We have continued to prioritize domestic violence cases and have made significant strides in holding offenders accountable for violent assaults against women and children. Domestic violence has been a plague on our society for years. It undermines the fabric of the family unit and causes irreparable harm to many women and children. We will continue to aggressively prosecute these cases. As was referenced by the Lieutenant Governor, I would like to thank Assistant District Attorney Courtney Cahill, who leads our domestic violence unit, for her efforts in the statewide police training and developing protocols to protect and keep track of high-risk offenders. She's worked on these important issues as a member of the Governor's Council on Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence with the Lieutenant Governor, who I'd also like to thank for focusing on these very important issues. My priority, one of my priorities, but a top priority, is to protect the public from violent and repeat offenders who cause the most mayhem in our communities. I have continued to focus on prosecuting cases involving illegal firearms. That was initiated almost 12 years ago by former District Attorney Sutter. I want to thank him for his efforts in that area in focusing on the illegal use of firearms, in particular in our cities. Nothing but trouble will come from individuals running around our communities with loaded guns, illegal loaded guns. There are too many illegal guns and knives on the streets of our communities, which inflict serious injury and death. Much of this violence is related to drug dealing. As has been reported in recent newspaper articles, there are thousands of people in default on criminal cases throughout the state. While many of these are for minor offenses, there are also violent fugitives who are on the run trying to avoid justice. We will soon unveil a new initiative aimed at tracking down dangerous fugitives in our county. Our state police detective unit, working with other law enforcement agencies, will track down the most serious and violent offenders who are on the loose. We have already started this program and have arrested a number of fugitives who face serious charges in Superior Court. You simply will not get a pass when you skip court and try to evade prosecution. Tried to be a good partner with our law enforcement agencies, and I believe we're working well together. I want to thank police chiefs who are present here today. I would also like to thank our other law enforcement partners, which include the Children's Advocacy Center and the Bristol Elder Services. I'd also like to give a thank you to our state police detective unit that is assigned to the District Attorney's Office for their efforts in investigating serious homicides and related crimes. They are primarily responsible for investigating homicides, overdoses, and unattended deaths. Bristol County is a very busy place, and I want to thank you for your service. Every night I'm reading reports of people that they're responding to who are deceased, which is very tragic, but as I've always been an advocate, Bristol County is a very busy place. I'd like to give a special thank you to State Police Detective Lieutenant Michael King, who recently retired. He is here today. He was a key member of our State Police Detective Unit for more than 20 years. I worked with him in the mid-90s when he first came to the unit, and I was a soldier, so to speak. He was promoted by me to lead the unit several years ago. I would like to thank him for his efforts on behalf of the office and the citizens of Bristol County. He has done a very effective and honorable job investigating and overseeing difficult cases. I wish Mike and his family the best. Thank you. 4 years ago, I talked about the need to reform the bail statute. It has bothered me for more than 30 years that dangerous criminals get released from custody and in many cases commit new crimes. I filed legislation last year which reformed an aspect of the bail statute, but more is needed. We need common sense bail reform that eliminates unreasonable and illogical loopholes that result in dangerous defendants being sprung back into the community, often to re-offend again. One example of the urgent need for bail reform is a recent state Supreme Court case that ruled that the district attorneys cannot request that a court hold a defendant who is charged with aggravated rape of a child without bail. In that particular case, the individual would be facing a mandatory 10-year jail sentence because the crime, for example, would be a 40-year-old individual accused of raping a 10-year-old. Because the case is not, the charge is not in the statute, the court has ruled that we cannot move to detain those people. That's a change that has to be made. And again, the only change is to give us the opportunity to ask the judge, the court, to hold a person if the facts and circumstances warrant it. I want to thank Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for taking the initiative in filing this important bail reform legislation. I was pleased to work with them on this initiative and support many of the changes in the legislation. I look forward to continuing to work with our legislative delegation and the leadership so we can make these necessary changes. I am not proposing any radical or unfair changes in this bail statute. However, the public, victims, and law enforcement have a right to be protected from dangerous criminals. This is something I have always felt very strongly about. Our office has also become involved in prevention initiatives in response to the county-wide drug epidemic. We have partnered with a nonprofit organization, Corey's Cause, that brings a real-life message to students about the impact of drug abuse. We've also partnered with the New Bedford Police Department, what is called the LEAD program, Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, which involves pre-arrest diversion for low-level offenders charged with simple drug possession, prostitution, and some other similar crimes. Approximately 15 people have been admitted to the program within the last 6 months. This type of program has proven effective in cities of Seattle and Albany, New York. I was forwarded a letter recently from a woman who was one of the early entrants into the program. She was pregnant and on drugs. Not a good combination. She was, as part of this program, was placed in a treatment, then into a program, and has said at this point in time, she is doing well and was very thankful to those involved for giving her this opportunity. So I certainly get much more satisfaction out of hearing that than unfortunately prosecuting people doing bad things. So hopefully that's a sign of what can come of the program. I'm also very pleased to announce that we've added an additional trial session that I requested to the Superior Court in Fall River. I want to thank Judge Thomas McGuire and the trial court leadership for their efforts to make this a reality. This is something I have always wanted and has been much needed for a long time. I cannot accept child sexual assault victims being traumatized by unreasonable delays in court proceedings. And in other cases, the release of dangerous criminals simply because their cases can't be brought to trial in a timely manner. The citizens and victims of Bristol County deserve their adequate share of judicial resources to effectively and efficiently prosecute these cases. So I'm very thankful that this request has been acted on, and again, I appreciate convey my thanks and gratitude for this. It's already making a difference. During the past year, both of my parents passed away. I, along with my family, are very appreciative of their support and the many sacrifices they made on our behalf. I certainly miss their encouragement and support and realize I wouldn't be here without them. As I did 4 years ago, I would also like to acknowledge the support of my late uncle, Judge James Quinn, and my Aunt Rosemary Quinn, who's here today. Their support was instrumental in my development as a person, and certainly without their support and assistance with our family, I don't think any of the family would be where they are today. So I want to thank them again very much. I don't have any illusions of how I got here. I would like to thank Father Racine and Father Fitzpatrick for their prayers here today. I'd also like to thank other members of the clergy, some of whom are here, for their support of myself and my family during my parents' illness and death. See my pastor, Father Jay Maddock, is here, who was very friendly with my father and supportive during his illness, along with my mother. So I want to thank them, and also Father Rodney Tebow, who was the pastor at St. Mary's, where they were parishioners, and provided them much comfort and solace. My faith is very important to me. I rely on it to make the many decisions I am confronted with on a daily basis. I realize I am nothing without it. And I want to thank the clergy that are here in keeping me on track. I would also like to acknowledge the passing of Carolyn Lynch, who was a longtime football coach and athletic director at Dartmouth High School. He was my high school football coach and mentor and teacher to many people in the community over the years. He had a profound impact on the lives of many people as a coach and teacher. I want to express my thanks for his support of me as a player and during my tenure as district attorney the past 4 years. Also, at the end of last year, Joachim Jack Labriga, who was a well-known figure in the Bedford area in the school committee, passed away. He was a coach at Holy Family High School. They had great teams and made a significant contribution to New Bedford over the years. I wanted to acknowledge his support for me and thank him for that in memorial. With the passing of our family members and these two gentlemen and others, it really is an end of an era in many respects for the people associated with them who knew them. So just want to keep that in mind. It's been an honor to serve as a district attorney in Bristol County for the past 4 years. I take nothing for granted, as I know I would not be in this position without the support of many of you here today, the community, and the Baker-Polito administration. My only goal and agenda is to do the best job I can for the citizens of Bristol County. Thank you very much.